Active exploits, urgent patches, and state-backed operations are converging this week. Here's what changed, why it matters, and what defenders should do right now. Welcome to your cybersecurity roundup. We focus on operational facts you can act on, the latest exploitation in the wild, priority patches to deploy, and strategic threats shaping risk beyond isolated incidents. First, DarkSword malware on iOS. Researchers identified a full-chain iOS exploit leveraging multiple zero-day vulnerabilities to fully compromise devices, observed in the wild since at least November 2025. The exploit chain, referred to as DarkSword, targets iOS versions 18.4 through 18.7 and uses 6 distinct vulnerabilities to deliver final-stage payloads, including malware families dubbed Ghostblade, Ghostknife, and Ghost Saber. Multiple commercial surveillance vendors and suspected state-sponsored actors have deployed it in separate campaigns against targets in Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Malaysia, and Ukraine. A suspected Russian espionage group previously linked to another iOS exploit kit has incorporated DarkSword into watering hole operations. Critically, a version of the chain leaked about a week after it was first identified, widening potential use. Although this news is about a month old, current iOS updates mitigate the chain for users who patch regularly. This matters because a single high-reliability mobile exploit kit in multiple hands compresses detection and response windows, especially after public leakage. For defenders, enforce rapid iOS updates via MDM, set minimum OS versions, restrict mobile configuration profiles, and prioritize mobile threat detection for high-risk users likely to encounter watering holes. Next, a critical Apache HTTP 2 flaw tracked as CVE-2026-23918. The Apache Software Foundation has issued updates addressing several HTTP server issues, including a high-severity double-free in HTTP 2 protocol handling, with a CVSS of 8.8 that can cause denial of service and possibly lead to remote code execution. Public-facing web infrastructure is at immediate risk when protocol handling vulnerabilities surface, and exploitation attempts typically follow quickly after disclosures. This matters because HTTP 2 is widely enabled for performance, expanding the potential blast radius across internet-exposed services. For defenders, inventory where Apache HTTP server terminates HTTP 2. Patch to the latest available release and consider temporarily disabling HTTP 2 where feasible until you can validate the fix under load. Monitor for worker crashes, unexpected restarts, or memory corruption signals, and stage canary rollouts with telemetry to catch regressions. Third, the end-of-life blind spot in your CVE feed and SCA tools. New research highlights that EOL open-source components often fall out of vulnerability feeds and the coverage of standard software composition analysis, meaning critical flaws in those dependencies can go undetected in your pipelines. A free end-of-life scan service is being offered to help teams surface these risks. This matters because outdated, unsupported libraries and their transitive dependencies can quietly persist in codebases, containers, and embedded images, creating unmanaged exposure outside normal patch processes. For defenders, extend SBOM practices to track EOL status, set policy gates to block new EOL components, and plan remediation paths. Either upgrade, replace, or obtain extended support. Run targeted scans for EOL across application repos, base images, and third-party services, and ensure your risk register reflects these findings with owners and timelines. Fourth, a daemon tools supply chain attack. Investigators found that official installers distributed from the legitimate daemon tools website were compromised to deliver a malicious payload, and the installers were signed using certificates belonging to the developers. This undermines two core trust anchors at once, the download origin and the code signing process. It matters because users and IT teams frequently whitelist signed installers and sanctioned vendor domains, allowing malicious code to slip past controls and land on endpoints with elevated trust. For defenders, pause new daemon tools deployments, quarantine and review recent installations, and validate hashes against a known good source once the vendor publishes clean builds. Hunt for suspicious child processes spawned post-install, unexpected persistence entries, or outbound connections tied to the installer's execution window, and be prepared to reimage systems that exhibit secondary payload activity. Finally, China linked UAT 8302 targeting governments across regions. Activity tracked under the moniker UAT8302 has been attributed to campaigns against government entities in South America since late 2024 and in southeastern Europe in 2025. Post-exploitation, the operators deploy custom malware families and have been observed using shared APT tooling across regions. This matters because the reuse of tooling and techniques across multiple theaters signals durable capability and intent, with potential spillover to suppliers and regional partners. For defenders in public sector and adjacent supply chains, tighten identity protections with phishing-resistant MFA, segment and monitor administrative enclaves, and prioritize hunting for shared malware families and infrastructure overlaps associated with the group's campaigns. Ensure third-party access is least privilege and continuously verified. And rehearse incident response playbooks for cross-border intelligence requirements and notification paths. In summary, we're seeing active exploitation on mobile, urgent server patching, software supply chain compromise, and coordinated state-backed operations all at once. Prioritize iOS fleet updates, patch Apache HTTP servers HTTP2 handling, audit for EOL components outside your normal SCA coverage, and investigate any recent daemon tools installs. Subscribe for the next briefing, and share this with your security team so they can act on today's priorities.